Hi and welcome to our webinar today. I'm Jo Henderson and hopefully you might even be able to see Giles over there as well. Now let me just double check that you can see me. Hang on one second. I think that might be better. Hi everyone. Always helps to turn your camera on, doesn't it, when you're trying to be on camera. Let me start again. Hi, welcome to the webinar. I'm Jo Henderson from the Dux-Soup marketing team, and I co-host these fortnightly sessions with our Dux-Soup and LinkedIn expert, Head of Professional Services, Giles Garnett. Now, for those of you who missed the update earlier last week, you might be surprised to find that we aren't joined today by the lovely Tracy Enos, as we had originally hoped. However, she will be joining us hopefully in March to enlighten us all on how to use AI to create the perfect LinkedIn profile. Now, Tracy's just been sending out a little LinkedIn message to say hi to everyone on the platform and to apologise that she can't be with us, but she's not been well. But hopefully, fingers crossed, she'll be back with us shortly. So in a change to the original plan, today we'll be sharing how to optimize LinkedIn outreach with InMail and Open Profiles, which allow you to extend your reach to thousands of prospects without impacting your connection limits. Hooray! So before I hand over to Giles, if you're a new user, we'd love to hear how you're finding the tool. We'll pop a link in the chat box or the question box shortly to ask you to leave a review on G2. And if you do and you add today's date, then we'll look you up and send you one of our lovely caps. If you're almost as expert as Giles is, or you have a great user story to share, then email Eve at dux-soup.com or message Giles and myself on LinkedIn, because we're always on the lookout for great use cases. And that's exactly how we found Tracy, actually. So she had a great use case to share with us. She talked to us about how she used Dux-Soup. We created a case study and it was so ace that we decided to turn some of her content into a webinar. And she's, it would have been her second one today. So make sure you get in touch with us if you have some good cases to share. And if you have any questions, add them into the question box on the GoTo Dash. I'll answer as many as I can as we go, and I'll put the really difficult and juicy ones to Giles at the end of the session. Just a quick reminder, you'll all be sent the recording of the session a bit later today, so keep a lookout and you can share it or watch it back. So I think that's enough from me. Giles, over to you.
Thanks, Jo, and hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you wherever you may be in the world, and thank you once again for joining us on today's Dux-Soup webinar. Jo, is my camera working? Because for some reason I seem to have a strange setup today. I think it's because I've got a different laptop. Yeah, my camera is working. Oh, there we go. And so that's good. Cool. Anyone who's new, my name is Giles. I'm head of professional services here at Dux-Soup, and that was Jo, who is one of our fantastic marketing team. Today's webinar, we're going to talk about InMails and how you can make use of them in your Dux-Soup Turbo or Cloud campaigns. So today's webinar is very much focusing on our Turbo and Cloud users. Hopefully there's a bit of information in here for everyone. Now, there is an existing blog relating to a previous webinar we did that Pro users can look at if they're interested, covering a very similar aspect of Dux-Soup functionality. I'm sure Jo will be sharing those links with you in due course. As Jo said, get those questions into the questions box. Jo will answer what she can and I'll cover anything else at the end. I'm going to do a few slides today, but most of what I'm going to do is going to be a demo and talk around the use of InMails in your campaigns, showing you the process you need to go through to make the most of this, premium LinkedIn feature. So our agenda is therefore, anyone who's new, what's Dux-Soup? What are InMails and why should you use them? When we did this before, I made an assumption that anybody on this webinar would know what an InMail is, but we'll cover that and we'll touch on that. We'll touch on what an open profile is in LinkedIn. And we'll talk about Dux-Soup campaigns with InMails in Turbo and Cloud, who and how to enroll, how we can maximize our outreach, and the trick, of course, that we've got on the Dux-Soup side where we can target these open profiles, which gives you way more possibilities for getting out a lot more InMails than your standard credits. So first of all, what is Dux-Soup? Dux-Soup is a Chrome extension, which is compatible with some other browsers as well, Chrome-based browsers, which you can use to mimic human behavior on the LinkedIn platform. And that's the free version, the Sales Navigator, Recruiter, whatever it is, whatever flavor of LinkedIn you're using. You basically define your targets and you get Dux-Soup to run your chosen actions against that list. And Dux-Soup mimics human behavior keeping your account safe. We have 3 paid versions of Dux-Soup. There's Pro, Turbo, and Cloud, and you can see all of the details via the link that's there at the bottom. There's also a really good blog which I've been sharing with people recently, which Dux-Soup is right for you, and it goes through each of the 3 versions, explaining the differences and helping people to make a more informed choice to get the right one first time. So first of all, what are InMails for anybody who's not aware? It's a premium messaging service that allows you to reach out to people you're not connected to. So non-first degree connections. It allows you to get a more extensive message out to those prospects. So you could include a call to action or a link, that kind of thing. Depending on your LinkedIn account, you get a number of InMail credits per month, and we'll cover that in a second. But with Dux-Soup, you can go over and above your credits, or even never even use your credits if you want to, because you can send messages out without burning through your credits by targeting open profiles only. So we'll talk through all of that in due course. So here we have a little table there. There's your InMail credits. There's a link at the bottom there, which I think Joe will put into the chat box, so you can all access that and see how that article looks in LinkedIn. These are your regular LinkedIn InMail credits, depending on what version of LinkedIn you have, and they rename the types of subscriptions that they have, or premium versions that they have. But this is what we had last time we covered this. Now, these credits, you carry them over for up to 3 months, and that's why you see that you get InMails per month and then a maximum number of credits you can carry over. That all becomes irrelevant if you target open profiles, because targeting an open profile with an InMail will not burn through any of these credits. So that's something to remember. Why use InMails? Well, you're spending your cold, hard-earned cash on your LinkedIn premium subscription. So you should make use of all the functionality that they're providing. It could prove to be valuable. An InMail allows you to write a message with up to 2,000 characters in it, plus a subject header. It gives you a real opportunity to engage with your prospects, way beyond the usual 300 character connection request, which is somewhat limiting, but sometimes enough. In your messaging, it's really, really important that you still stick to all of the things that we say about campaigns. And we've covered this in many of our previous webinars and several of our blogs as well. You're looking to build a relationship in your message, through your messaging. So ask questions, share information, ask for views and opinions. Make sure that your messaging is matching up with your target audience or your search results, whatever group of people you're trying to reach out to. So I've mentioned open profiles a number of times. So some people go, well, what's an open profile? Well, an open profile is basically those users on LinkedIn who have a premium account and they have opted to open up their profile to accept free InMails. They tend to be very active and highly engaged on LinkedIn. And you can only select to have an open profile if you're a premium user. It's one of the features of LinkedIn. You can go into your LinkedIn settings and choose to accept InMails without it costing people a credit. You are basically opening your mailbox there for people to engage with you. And that's the group of people. Now it varies because everyone says, oh, well, how many of them are there? Well, nobody knows. What we do know is that whenever you go into a list, a certain number of them will be open link or open profiles. It's sometimes called open link, sometimes called open. I think open link refers to what it used to be in years gone by. But you know, it can be anywhere between sort of 5% of a search results to 25% of a search result. Every demographic, every group of people that you search on LinkedIn is different. And you can do this in Sales Navigator. Dux-Soup you can do this through Sales Navigator. With Sales Navigator, you have the option to be able to send InMails, and we can put an InMail into our Dux-Soup campaign. And we can choose to only target those people who have an open profile, therefore not burning through our credits. How do we put an InMail into a campaign? Well, anybody who's been using Dux-Soup or Dux-Soup Turbo or Cloud should hopefully be familiar with the campaign setup, but don't worry if you're not, I will be walking through it. We can create a campaign as usual in Dux-Soup Turbo or Cloud. We add the InMail step, which will always be before a connection request. So if you send a connection request, then of course you're waiting for them to accept your connection request. If you send an InMail, waiting for them to respond to you. give prospects time to respond and reply to your things. So don't send an InMail and then an hour later a connection request, because you're just bombarding people with messages there. Always, in all of your campaign activity, and that goes across the board, always give people time to read, digest, and respond to your messaging or action, whatever it may be that you've chosen in your campaign. Once you've defined your campaign, and we will do this step by step in a minute, don't worry. We will, once you've defined your campaign, then you need to find your list of targets in Sales Navigator. Then we need to go into Dux-Soup and make sure we're going to skip anybody who's not an open link member. So that's in our skipping rules. And then you just go and enroll your prospects, and Dux-Soup will cherry pick exactly who will accept a free InMail and only enroll those people into that particular campaign during that process. It's as simple as that. We did this same webinar or similar themed webinar for Pro users, because you can use this same trick if you're using Pro as well. We had a massive response, huge amount of feedback from users within sort of a month or two of saying, yeah, this has changed everything, because they could send out 200, 300, 400 InMails a month, over and above what they were doing normally with connection requests. So it's a really, really powerful action. So without further ado, let's get off the slide, shall we, and show you exactly how we should do this. So hopefully, where are we? There we go. Let's go to LinkedIn. So anybody who's new to these webinars, this is me on LinkedIn. Do feel free to send me a connection request. I always say it. Put in your message that you found me via Dux-Soup, and yeah, I'll engage with you via LinkedIn. And what we're going to do is we're going to first of all go and define our campaign. So I'm going to click on my Dux-Soup icon here at the top right hand corner. I've got Dux-Soup Turbo here, but the steps I'm going through here with Turbo are exactly the same as if you had Cloud as well. So bear that in mind. So this is applicable for both Turbo and Cloud. So here under the Dux dash, we can go in here, and this is where we can do all of our campaign related activity. So I'm going to go to my drip campaigns, because funnily enough, there's one I prepared earlier. And what we have here, if I scroll down this list of campaigns, here we go, an InMail I've prepared for my webinar now. So here we go, InMail webinar. I've created this campaign, and down here, I'm starting my campaign with an auto visit. The person will get a notification that I visited them. And then a few days later, I'm going to send them an InMail. So I'm giving them time to hopefully see the notification that I've visited them. And then I'm sending them an InMail with a question, quick question about lead gen. And then I've got my message here. Now I've got plenty of characters that I can send in this message here. One thing to remember though, when you're writing your InMail, LinkedIn will automatically populate a signature for you. Don't forget this, because otherwise it looked like it's double signed off. So go down to the bottom here, and there we are. I've just put best regards. I know that LinkedIn is going to auto insert a signature in my InMail communication. There we are, there's my InMail. Now, the way I put that in there was I literally clicked here and I pressed the InMail button, and then I used these buttons here to drag it around and make sure I had it in the order that I wanted. Visit, InMail, and then I'm giving them a week to see the InMail and respond before I then send them a connection request. If they respond, like all Dux-Soup campaigns, everything pauses. So if they respond to my InMail, everything pauses. And then it's up to me if I then want to send the connection request or then send them another message or whatever it may be. So remember that. I've got here, so I've got my auto visit, I've got my InMail, then I've got my connection request in this case, and I've just got one follow-up here for now. Now I could add additional follow-ups here and extend my campaign out there, of course, but just for demo purposes, this is how I'm going to run this. So here we are, I've got my campaign defined, I've got my InMail in here. Now I need to find my list of prospects. And like all good demonstrations, here's a list of people I prepared earlier. Now, this is just a search that I've carried out in Sales Navigator. And what we'll see here, we've got a selection of different people here. To illustrate what I mean by an open profile, if we take this gentleman at the top of the page here, and let's open his profile. If I open his profile in Sales Navigator, what we'll see here, if I go to message him, which is effectively using a premium messaging, the InMail service, what we'll see here is that this, if I sent this, it would use one of my credits. quite simply, it would just use one of my credits. And I can very quickly burn through all those credits if I automate my actions here. I've got 150 credits at the moment, but I could easily burn through those in a day probably if I wanted to. So maybe I don't want to message him. And just to show you how the signature looks, if I start typing here, we'll see there at the bottom, my footer automatically appears there. So you can always go in and edit your footer. So don't worry. It's not a fixed thing that's in there. But as soon as you start typing something, that's when you see your footer appear there, and then you can edit it if you want to. So that's something that's going to appear automatically whenever you send an InMail. So this gentleman here, it's going to cost me a credit. I'm not so keen on having him in my campaign. If we take the next guy down, let's have a look at this guy. Now we can see he's a premium user. He's got a gold IN there, and same as the next couple of people down. If we have a look at this guy here and we go to message him, we can see that this InMail is free to an open profile. So I can send him an InMail. It's not going to burn through one of my credits. So those are the people that we want to target. Those are the ones we want to get Dux-Soup to target automatically. We don't want to have to go through this list and go cherry pick, okay, I'd like to enroll him and not him and him and him. What we need to do is get Dux-Soup to do that automatically for us. So what I can do now is I can click on my Dux-Soup icon and I can go to my settings. Now I've got the basic menu here. That's all you need. You don't need to go into any of the advanced settings there. And you can see here, I've already enabled it. So here I've got this option to skip if not an open link member. If I enable that one, Dux-Soup's going to skip anybody when I go to enroll them, anybody who's not an open link member. So we're going to demonstrate that now and queue some actions up. So I'm going to go back to my Sales Navigator search here, and we're going to go through the usual process of enrollment. Hopefully what I'm talking about here isn't a completely foreign language to everybody who's on the webinar. Click on my Dux-Soup icon, we're going to hit enroll, and then we're going to select our campaign. It's my InMail webinar campaign down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, right, I'd like to enroll, let's have a think about it. Let's enroll 50 people into it. Now, it's going to take the first 50 people in this list who have not, who have got an open profile. I need to word that correctly. So take the first 50 people who have got an open profile and have not been enrolled into this campaign before. So if I now press the OK button here, what we'll see now is in a second, we're going to see Dux-Soup reload the page, and then it should skip the person at the top of the page. And then it should, from then on, start enrolling the people who've got the open profiles. The person at the top of the page doesn't have an open profile, so we should see it skip past them. And then we can go to the Dux dash and have a look at all of that action being queued up accordingly. Yeah, that's how the magic happens. So let's see this happen actually in real time here now. It's always a little bit slightly nervous. Is everything going to work smoothly? It should do. There's no strange options selected. So here we go. What we should see in a second, the Dux icon has turned blue in the top right hand corner there. So we should start to see the dialog in a second saying enrolling and skipping. Those are the two things we're looking for here. And we're going to get quite a few people off this page, I think, going in. So there you are. Top guy has been skipped. A couple of people have been enrolled. A few more people have been skipped there. So we now know that it's pulling out maybe 30, 40% of this particular page. There we are. It's now scrolled down there. It's enrolled 10 of 25 there. Great. In a second, it's going to skip to the next page and then start processing that until it hits my number of 50 that I stuck in there. While that's doing that, let's go back to well, let's open a new Dux dash a second, because what I'd like to show you as well is how that then looks in my queued activity. So over here on the left-hand side, if I look at my queued activity and I select my InMail campaign here, we can see here, these are the people who I have just enrolled, and my campaign is starting with an auto visit. So that's the first step. There we are at 19 minutes past 5 my time. That's when I started running this. So we can see all of these people have just been enrolled. And in a second, we'll see a bunch more people arriving here. And what we'll see very shortly is we'll start to see some new tabs being opened as Dux-Soup starts to visit each of these people in turn and carry out my actions. Actually, what I should do is check to make sure here in the planner that things are going to happen. There we go. Let's do that. There we are. I've now turned on the planner, so it'll start processing what's in my queue. So Dux-Soup will now start to kick into action. We'll start to see it checking my messaging, etc., which is all the normal stuff that Turbo and Cloud does. And then in a second, it's going to start by auto-visiting Gareth. Once it's visited Gareth, it'll then queue up the InMail to go out in, I think I set it to 4 days' time. While I've been talking, we'll see here that it's been going through and enrolling some more people into my list. So I think it's probably onto the 3rd page there already. And if I refresh this list here, my queued activity for InMails, there we are. I've got 18 people now queued up to get to my InMail communication. There we are. We can see Dux-Soup is now scrolling down page 3, I think it is, and it'll continue doing this until it reaches that number 50 that I put in there. Now, one thing you should remember as well is that every time Dux-Soup needs to carry out an action, it counts. You know, it's going to visit a profile, so you need to think about your throttling settings, everything like that. So we're going to have a whole load of people here who are not open link. There we are. It's enrolling a few from this page, not so many on this particular page, but that's fine. But what I'm doing here is I'm maximizing the use of my InMail opportunities by making sure I'm only targeting those people who have got an open profile. Once Dux-Soup has been through this list and once it's sent out all of those InMails, I can then always return to this search result and then add another filter to my search result saying, okay, I want to remove anybody I've already maybe messaged, and then enroll everybody maybe into a conventional campaign to perhaps just send a regular connection request, removing the InMail part from it perhaps, and then using that going forward. So there we go. We can now see it's still doing that. If we go back to our Dux dash here, we'll see, there we are, it's now queued up 22. So we'll leave that running for a bit accordingly, and yeah, it will work its way through there. And what I hope to see in a second, it's going to carry out a visit to one of these people. There we go. It's now opening a visit to somebody there. So that actually means that if I have a look here and I look at my queued activity here, what we should see, let's go down here. What we should see down here is, there we are. There's an InMail being queued up to go to the first person in 4 days' time. So on the 10th of February, we can see there's my InMail being queued up to be sent in due course to that gentleman there, who I know will accept that InMail, or will receive an InMail without it burning through one of my credits. So I'll leave that running there, and what we'll do is we'll just pop back to the slides a second. So we've talked about how we can create a campaign that includes an InMail. It's the same for Turbo, it's the same for Cloud. Remember, with Cloud, you don't see the pop-ups of all the new windows as Dux-Soup carries stuff out, new tabs, I should say. We've carried out a search in Sales Navigator. We're making use of all of those Sales Navigator filters to truly narrow down our targets. We've made sure we got the correct skipping options selected in order to make sure that we are only targeting those people with open profiles or open link profiles. And then we're enrolling and seeing Dux-Soup skip those profiles that are not open. And there we are now making the absolute best use of the InMail functionality. Now, there's no reason why you can't also, for example, maybe target people who don't have an open profile. You may want to use your InMail credits because there are a lot of people out there that it's worth reaching out to as well, but just use them carefully and make sure you target really, really well, because it's a premium unit, it's a premium product, the InMail, it's a premium service of LinkedIn, and you have a limited number. So treat them with care and use them sparingly if you are going to use them. That was everything I was going to demonstrate today. And I think hopefully Joe may have some questions. So I'm going to start speaking slowly and then say, Joe, do we have any questions?
We do. Well, I've actually, for the first time ever, I think I've managed to kind of drill through all of them whilst you've been talking, which never normally happens, does it?
But were you listening to me at the same time?
The multitasking really doesn't work and I get a bit lost, but today I've been on it. I have just had this question from Mike though, who I will ask because I think there's a few of you who've asked the same thing, and then
it's relevant to everybody probably. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
These are the important questions that we get.
So Mike said, I'm using Pro. Is that a problem for this?
Sorry, can you say that again? You broke up partway through.
Sorry, Mike said he's using Pro. So we've had a few users on the line who are Pro users. And their question, I guess, is around, obviously we talked about InMails and Open Profiles. We're looking at campaigns using Turbo and Cloud. So how can they make best use out of InMail and Open Profiles if they've only got Pro accounts?
Okay, I'm going to, hopefully it's already in there, but in the chat box, I've just stuck the link to the blog post that we did based on a webinar we did. I think it must be nearly 2 years ago, I think, when we first covered this, back in 2022, I think it was May 2022 when we first covered it. Sorry?
The 5 InMail hacks blog.
Yeah, the 5 InMail tricks. So yeah. If you've got Pro, and okay, let's demonstrate this because it's going to be useful for someone, isn't it? Let's go back to where were you? That one? Yeah, that one there. Right. If you're a Pro user, you can still make use of this trick, absolutely, Mike. And very, very briefly, is it still running? I think it probably is. What I need to do is, in order to see the Pro features, I just need to enable a couple of things here. So let's just go here and do that a second. There we go. All right, I'm going to stop my enrollments there because we've kind of done the demo now. So there we go. Let's stop that. Right, so if you've got Dux-Soup Pro, we'll do a flying review of how you can use this using Dux-Soup Pro. It's in that document I've just chucked into the chat in that blog post. But basically, if you've got Pro, when you're auto-visiting profiles, these are your options here. So you can ask Dux-Soup to carry out any of these actions here if you're a Pro user. If you want to use InMail and make use of that same InMail trick that I've just been talking about, you go and you carry out your search in Sales Navigator the same way as I did earlier with this one. So you've got your search result here. You go into your Dux-Soup options, which you get to by clicking on your Dux-Soup icon and going to the options. Make sure you've got the advanced menu enabled, which you do down here, and the expert menu, there we go. Here under your actions, you say, yes, I would like to send an InMail to these individuals. There we are, they populated my InMail there already. You say in your skipping rules, yep, skip if not an open link member. And then you go to your list here and you say to Dux-Soup, please just go and auto-visit those profiles. And during the auto-visit, Dux-Soup will recognize if they've got an open profile or not. If they haven't got an open profile, it will skip. If they have got an open profile, it will send them the InMail. Couple of things I would recommend doing if you are a Pro user doing this. I would recommend making use of the tagging feature, and you label them with InMail or something like that, whatever it may be. I would put something in here so that you know what you've sent these people. The reason I do that is because then I would also say, okay, if they've had an InMail from me already and they've already got that tag, I want to make sure that I'm not going to send them another one by using the skipping rules here, saying, yes, skip them if they've already got InMail. That way you can say, yeah, if they're going to get this InMail, they're going to get this label. If they've already got this label, Dux-Soup's going to skip them. So that's how you would set it. Oh, that's how I would set it up if I was using Dux-Soup Pro and do exactly the same thing. Now, one thing you should be aware of, and this is for all users, your throttling, InMails count as direct messages. Now, I was doing some testing earlier. So normally my direct message is sent to 100 per day and my connection request is 25 per day. So Dux-Soup will try to send up to 100 of these per day if you want it to. I would always recommend starting a bit slower than that perhaps and then building up. But essentially you're using, InMails are a direct message. They don't count as connection requests. So just be aware of that as well. And that's how you can do it using Pro as well. There we go. We did a whole webinar in about 4 minutes there.
Nice work, Giles. Leon has asked, which is a nice segue from what you've just said, is it possible to target profiles that didn't accept your connection request using InMails? So you're using it as like a reminder to connect, or because it's still pending?
That's a good one. Yeah, Leon. How do you prove a negative? That's a tricky one. It would involve some housekeeping on your side and making sure that you had, for example, let's go back to our Dux Dash here. So what you could do, for example, I'm just trying to think how you could do this. In your funnel flow, you get the stats around, wait for this to load. It's a bit slow right now. So what you could do, thinking out loud here, you could, for example, yeah, let's go to a campaign where there's some data rather than where there's nothing. That would be kind of handy to look at, wouldn't it? Let's go there. So here in, for example, this particular campaign here, what we should see in a second is there's like 1,100 people invited and 500 and something accepted. Now, what I could do here, any second now, there we go. What I could do here, for example, is let's have a think. I could copy the data. I could copy all of this data into a spreadsheet and then just create a custom list of the people who have not accepted, and then create a new spreadsheet with just the people who've not accepted, because you'll see that you can remove the people who've accepted then from your 1,100, because the data that you get when you, well, let's do it. So if I copy all of that data, let's open Excel. There we go. There we go. If I now copy that data in here, so what I've got here now is I can see exactly who has been invited, who's accepted. So I could, for example, remove anybody who's accepted from this list, and I'd be left with the people who obviously haven't accepted. So all of these people here who've only got enrolled and invited, I could then just, for example, just enroll them into a new campaign. And I could do that if I create a custom file. I could enroll them from the file. Then if I've got a file that, you know, a CSV file, for example, and then yeah, press enroll from file, select whichever.
I don't know if it's me, Giles, but I can't hear you all of a sudden.
Put them into. What we are going to see later this year, and the founder of Dux-Soup, Will, touched on this. Was that just 2 weeks ago? I think it must have been. Yeah, but January being the longest month of the year, of course, it feels like a lot longer. Yeah, what we're going to see later this year is actually, rather than just linear campaigns, we are going to see scenario-based campaigns. So it could be a case that we're going to see this semi-automated in the way you can build your campaigns, where if something hasn't happened by a certain time, it triggers another action, whatever it may be. But certainly I expect to see some developments in scenario-based campaigns during the course of this year.
Fabulous. So Leon, that should have helped, I hope. I hope that helped. There we go. So we've got a couple of skipping questions. One from Penny. She said, please, can you show me again where to find the setting to change?
Of course. So when you're in, wherever you are, if you've got your Dux-Soup icon in the top right-hand corner, you click on your Dux-Soup icon and go to your Dux-Soup options. Open your options. Now you may have a slightly different looking menu to what I've got here because I've enabled my advanced, the expert menu, but you should have a skipping tab here anyway, and this is the one here, skip if not an open link member. Most users have probably got the regular menu, so it looks like this to you, and you can see here, there you are, skip if not an open link member. That's the one to enable to make sure you're only going to target those open profiles. And it's only during that enrollment phase that Dux-Soup will pick that up. So, you know, if you're in Sales Navigator, you have to be in Sales Navigator. I think it works in Recruiter as well. I would have to double check that. And now I'm thinking off the top of my head. Yeah, because that's where Dux-Soup can see whether it's an open profile or not. And you only have, yes, InMails possibilities from within, if you've got a Sales Navigator account of some sort anyway. So yeah.
So another question then from Ashim, do the skipping rules work on Sales Navigator search lists? So yeah.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
Pre-answered question.
Pre-answered, isn't that clever? It's like you almost knew. Okay, a question you might not be able to answer, but let's give it a go. I'm going to say this is from Argyris. Apologies if that's not correct. Yesterday, I kept getting an error message for both connection requests and InMails. Any ideas? And now it's not said.
Yes, I've got ideas about that. We were aware of a LinkedIn change that was applied to a small number of users yesterday. And let me have a quick look at my update here. Bear with me 1 second. So this morning, we published version 9.0.12. So if you click on your Dux-Soup icon down in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see what version you've got here, 9.0.12. That was released this morning, my time, so about 8 or 9 hours ago. Actually, it went live in the Chrome Web Store about 6 hours ago. So you should have that latest version now, and that fixed those errors that we were seeing appear yesterday. So we saw that almost straight away, and we fixed that accordingly.
Ace.
If it doesn't work, then please do email our support team if it's still having a problem. And I'm just putting the email address of the support team into the chat box in case you are not able to work still, but double check to make sure you got the latest version. So 9.0.12, and make sure Chrome is up to date as well. And then, if it's still a problem, then please do reach out to the support team and we'll follow up accordingly.
Awesome, thank you. I think he's come back with another question, but I think it's related. I was able to enroll profiles. Yes, thank you very much for extending on that one. We've answered that one. Mario has said you set a maximum of 50 visits. What stops you from exhausting your entire list of results in Sales Navigator?
Nothing. No, I can queue up as many as I like. Well, I can queue up as many as there are results in my search. Nothing to stop that at all. It's just a case of how many actions you want to queue up at one time, and how many other different campaigns are you running. Remember, if you've got multiple campaigns running, actions will be processed chronologically. So yeah, there's nothing to stop you from enrolling more people. It's a case of just how frequent you would like to review your actions, maybe pivot and do something else. Now, there are some people, for example, who will go in and say, yeah, I want to enroll 2,000 people and I don't want to touch this for another 6 weeks. That's perfectly acceptable, perfectly normal behavior. It's up to you. It just depends how much you want to queue up at one time and whether you want to pivot, say, and do something else. Have you got several projects running at once? If you queue up 2,000, for example, it's going to take a long time to process through those 2,000 before you can then do something else. And the other option then, of course, would be to turn the campaign and prioritize something else. But yeah, it's entirely down to how you wish to work.
So this then is also a really nice way of kind of continuing on from that. So Venu has asked 2 questions. Can I run multiple campaigns from the same account?
Yes, you can run as many as you like.
And then he or she has also queried around the safety side of using automated tools. So we've got a lovely blog, which I think I've already sent a link out to, but I'll send it again. So the question is, LinkedIn typically blocks if we use automated tools for message purposes. So how ethical is it? And I think in answer to your question, Venu, it blocks you if you're not using it correctly. And it's something that Dux-Soup have worked on tirelessly to make sure that we ensure the way that we program the tool for you to use, it is already safe to use. So it mimics human behavior. So you can choose to change the settings. If you decide you want to go full throttle, you can go full throttle. But when you open that tool on day one and start using it, it is at its safest. And from then on, it's up to you. If you decide to change the behavior and the way it works, then that's entirely your decision. And that is really when we start to see things go a little bit wrong. And that's, yeah.
If I can add to that, I've just put the link into the chat, so you don't need to go looking for it again, Joe. That blog post there is using LinkedIn automation safely. That's data that we have gathered over the last 10 years of Dux-Soup being a commercial product. We have lots of guidelines in there. There's lots of recommendations in there, lots of things that you should do to make sure that you, yes, you're using an automation tool, but you should still adhere to the spirit of the rules of LinkedIn, shall we say. You know, it's not a case of just bombarding people with thousands of messages. The people who get into trouble are the people are the people who get flagged as spamming. If you're abusing the platform and you're spamming people, if you're not being respectful in your messaging, those are the people who are going to get blocked. They're going to get blackmarked by LinkedIn, and you will get warnings. Use the tool sensibly, and you will remain safe. Don't run the tool at full blast, running it at visiting however many hundreds of profiles an hour. Use it in a responsible way, get it to visit at a random speed, make use of the planner, and yeah, message people respectfully, and you should be fine.
We've just had a user who is, well, a cloud user sent Giles and I a message to say that they went on a 4-week holiday. And during that time, they set Dux-Soup to continue to run as if they were at home. And they've had no problems, and they were sending out multiple messages and follow-up messages for campaigns to, I think there were 5,000 people in that list. So
yeah, so they were using a nurture campaign to reach out to their existing network. So it wasn't a case of bombarding people with cold calls and those sorts of things. It wasn't, you know, lots of connection requests and bombarding them with salesy messages. It was just engagement, nurturing them, nurturing their network. They were able to send out, I think, between 3,000 and 4,000 messages while they were on holiday for a period. Had a fantastic response when they got back from holiday, and lots of work to pick up straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. So Venu, hopefully you're still there, and that's put your mind at rest. Let's see what else we've got. Francesco, along the same lines of something we've answered earlier, targeting people with an InMail who did not accept my connection request. Use a tag related to the campaign and search pending connection requests. I think, is that a suggestion? So use a tag?
This sounds like a suggestion to me, but I mean, you could do that. To be honest, the most efficient way to do it is to go to your funnel and copy all the data and see what's in a spreadsheet, because the only place you can go and see where your pending connection requests are is you have to go into your LinkedIn profile, you have to go to My Network, and you have to go to see all of your invitations here, and then you have to go and see what you've got out there that you've sent. So it's not an easy thing to go and do and go and interrogate. So yeah, it's a tricky one because you're trying to prove a negative, and that's very difficult. The most accurate information you will get is from your funnel flow here, and use the copy all, and then create your list from there, from the people who have not accepted. Because one of the things you don't know, yeah, they've not accepted, but have they even seen your invite, and have they chosen to ignore it? You don't know, and LinkedIn don't share that information with you.
Thank you. Ted, I'm just replying to you. Penny has asked, can I do a campaign to first connections? Yes, you can, but I think, Penny, were you the one who was on Pro?
No, that was
somebody else.
That was Leon. That was Leon. Leon was on Pro.
So Penny, then
you can enroll first degree prospects into a campaign, and I would advise reading the blog from a previous webinar, and I've stuck the URL of that one into the chat, all about nurturing your prospects, how you can build a campaign that's targeting, if you're a Turbo or a cloud user, how you can build a campaign to target your first degree connections.
Perfect. Thank you for adding that in the chat. Penny, go to the chat. Pick up that blog. And what else have we got? What else have we got? That one I'll come back to. The function that you perform to sift out the opens from the full search, is that only available on Turbo and Cloud, or can it be done on Pro?
Can be done on Pro, as we've talked about before. Yep, you can go into your search result here. We talked through it. You go to your options. I've not got my Pro options, but essentially you can enable your InMail. you can still use this skip if not an open link member. And yeah, as I said earlier, you just go and get Dux-Soup to auto visit the profiles. Yeah, I've got the wrong menu open at the moment, so we can't see it. But yes, please refer to the segment I did at about 23 minutes into the webinar. No, maybe it was 33 minutes into the webinar. I can't remember. Something like that anyway.
As a pro user, am I able to download the activity log into a spreadsheet? And I was wondering if it was an option to consider versus the funnel flow.
If you're a pro user, no, because Dux-Soup isn't logging who's accepting your connection request if you're a pro user, because it's not, you're not running any campaigns, you're literally just sending out connection requests or direct messages. What you can do with pro is you can log the people who you're sending messages to, or you can get Dux-Soup to download, get Dux-Soup to gather the data for you for all the profiles that you're visiting. What you would need to do there is make sure that in your Dux-Soup options, you are recording profile data here. There you are, you've got the record profile data here. And then you will have a log of everybody who you visited and the data around those particular profiles. If I now go back here and I can click on my Dux-Soup icon, I can then download my data. If you're not logging getting the browser to download the data, it doesn't store it. So we can see here I've got 834 profiles. If I click on the recorded, if I click on the download data there, I can then download just a list of all of the people I visited. Depending on what I'm doing, I can then make an educated guess as to whether I've been inviting them or whatever. But Pro does not log the people who are accepting your connection request. You would have to monitor that yourself through my network here. This page here. It's all a little bit slow this evening because if you go to my network there and we go over to connections here. This is the only place you get to see your connections in a chronological order. So these are the most recent connections, the most recent people that you've connected to. So you'd have to then compare your downloaded file to this file and then work it out from there. But yeah, Pro does not monitor the people who are accepting for you.
Okay, thank you. Brian, I'm just answering you now, sending you a link to a document. There we go. Mike, you're a muppet. Meant in the nicest of ways. For the gosh, I can't even say it. For the technologically challenged, does Dux-Soup have team members who can help with step-by-step setup? Giles, perhaps you could answer that question.
Yeah, we've got a couple of different options. So if you reach out to our support team are amazing. We've had fantastic reviews for our support team. You just go to our support team here, and if they can solve your problem online, then they will do. We have a live chat option on the page here as well, and there's somebody there. There's lots of answers to questions, not questions to answers. Here as well, but start with the support team, and then if we need to set up a call to help solve things, then we've got several different options there. If it's a simple support thing, then we can do that in a fairly quick way. But we do also provide one-to-one support services, so you can, if more extensive help, then you can book a booster or a technical session to help you go through and set up your process, whatever it may be. But yeah, my first recommendation would be to contact support, because they may be able to sort of point you to a couple of videos that will really help you to solve the problem that you've got, depending on the complexity of the issue, and then decide on the way forward what would be most suitable there.
Fabulous, thank you very much. So we've got to the end of the questions. That's amazing.
Excellent.
So
I'll let you do the plug for the next webinar then.
Yeah, why not? So the next one we're going to do is how to get started with Dux-Soup Cloud Edition. So for those who don't know, Dux-Soup you can run, as we hinted earlier, you can run 24/7. So if you have a holiday planned or you just want to take a couple of days off, or you are working on multiple clients and today is a client A and tomorrow is client B day, then the great thing about using cloud is that you can run it in the background. You don't need a different computer to do it. It just kind of churns away at the speed that you've chosen, carrying on doing your work for you. So we fairly often do how to get started with Dux-Soup. So next session, we're going to do how to get started with cloud. So we'll be talking to how to use it safely, how to purchase your cloud edition or upgrade from your existing license. We'll look at how to install and set up Dux-Soup Cloud Edition. We'll talk you through how you can build prospect lists and connect with prospects on LinkedIn, and how to enroll them into your campaigns and monitor the activity in the cloud. So that will be on the 20th of February. Let me...
And then how to turn your computer off and let Dux-Soup carry on working while you're enjoying yourself doing something maybe more productive.
And how not to get distracted and try and do it as well. I've just put the link in the chat. There's no kind of nice introductory blurb. I've just literally put the link in there. So if you look at the attendee go to webinar link and you click on that, that will register for you. That will register you for the session on the 20th of February. So you've done and dusted and you can forget all about it until this time in 2 weeks. And then hopefully I might have an update at the next session then for when Tracy will be joining us for the AI and LinkedIn profile session. So this nice little smiley face here, what's your Dux-Soup success story? So as I mentioned at the start of the session, the reason that we got to know Tracy was because she had a great case study arguably to share with us about how she uses Dux-Soup and how it's helped her in her business, and that evolved into being a webinar. And I'm always on the lookout for other people, other businesses that have a success story with Dux-Soup. So it doesn't matter whether you're a small business, an individual, whether you're a big corporate, it makes no difference. The story is that you've used Dux-Soup and it's helped you get from A to B, and that's what we're really interested in. So if you have a story, either get in touch with Giles, myself on LinkedIn, or you can email eve@dux-soup.com. And we would love to hear your stories, however big or small. You know, it's just nice to share user stories with users, so that's what we're after. And I think my mouth's really dry, which says I've already been talking too much. So I think it's thank you from us. What do you reckon, Giles?
Indeed, thank you for everybody who's joined us today. I see, we picked a fairly high number today with attendees, so thank you to everyone who's joined us. And yeah, in 2 weeks' time, we'll be talking about the fabulous new cloud edition, and yeah, hopefully you can join us then.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to see you all, and good questions. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.